This happened a while back, mid-December. I remember because I had helped a friend move some furniture after work, and by the time I headed home, it was already past 12:30 a.m. The drive home is usually quiet, two-lane highway, no lights, mostly trees and open fields. You pass the occasional farmhouse, maybe a gas station closed for the night. Just you, the road, and whatever your headlights catch. It was cold that night. I had the heat cranked and the windows fogged slightly around the edges. I kept the music low to stay focused. Not quite tired, but just enough for the night to feel heavier than usual. About 15 minutes in, I saw someone on the shoulder. A man, standing still, facing the road. He didn't flag me down, didn't move, just stood there in jeans and a hoodie, no coat, no gloves. As I passed, I caught a look at his face in the mirror. Blank, not angry, not scared, just there. I kept driving. I told myself maybe his car broke down. Still, it unsettled me. A few miles later, I saw him again. Same guy, same clothes, same posture, standing on the shoulder like he'd never moved. There were no side roads he could have taken to get ahead. No other cars. Just me and him, again. I felt sick to my stomach and sped up. 10 minutes later, he was in the middle of the road. I hit the brakes so hard I skidded. He didn't flinch, just stared, his head tilted slightly like he was studying me. Then, without a word, he stepped off the road and disappeared into the trees. I didn't wait. I floored it the rest of the way home. Didn't even stop to breathe until I was inside with every lock checked twice. Here's the part one don't like remembering. The next morning, I went out to my car and saw muddy footprints in the garage. One set, leading up to the passenger side. The door was slightly open, and on the dashboard was a torn piece of receipt paper. No words, just a greasy thumbprint in the middle. I don't pick up hitchhikers anymore. This happened last summer, early July. We were in the middle of one of those suffocating heat waves where the nights are barely cooler than the days, and even with all the fans running, my apartment felt like a slow-cooking oven. I live on the second floor of a small two-story building. Just 6 units total. It's nothing fancy. Old carpet, creaky floors, but it's cheap, and it's mine. I don't have central air, just a window unit in the bedroom. It's ancient and loud, but it works. That week, I'd been sleeping with it on full blast, tucked under just a sheet, trying to ignore the constant drone of the motor. It was sometime around 3 a.m., July 9th, I think, when I woke up suddenly. Not like a slow rise, but the sharp kind of wake where your whole body goes still. The air felt wrong. Not hotter, just off. Heavy. I couldn't hear the AC. At first, I thought it had just tripped the breaker. I sat up, annoyed and half asleep, and was about to swing my legs over the bed when I heard something. Not a bang or a crash, just the softest scraping sound. It was coming from the window, the same window where the unit sat. I froze, listened harder. Another scrape, followed by a faint thump, like someone gently pressing against the glass. Then a pause, then another. That window faces a narrow alley between buildings. There's a rusted metal fire escape that runs right outside it. But there's no reason anyone should ever be on it. The entrance is locked from below, and nobody I know uses it. I didn't move, just stared at the shadows on the wall across from the window. Then, slowly, the AC unit made a low creaking noise, not the usual hum. It shifted, like it was being pushed. I slid off the bed as quietly as I could, crept to the door, and slipped out into the hallway. Called the police, whispering from the bathroom. They showed up 10 minutes later, said they didn't find anyone, but the window unit had been partially pulled out, like someone had tried to take it or squeeze past it. Thing weighs 60 pounds. But here's the part that stuck with me. On the inside windowsill, pressed into the dust, was a single fingerprint, facing inward. I don't know why I'm writing this. Maybe just to get it out. This happened on a Thursday night last October. I live alone in a small rental house just outside of town. One of those quiet places that feels safe because it's boring. I work late shifts at the hospital and usually get home around 1:30 a.m. That night was no different. I remember pulling into the driveway at exactly 1:42. I always check the clock. Habit. The house looked normal. Nothing out of place. Porch light still on. I walked in, locked the door behind me, and microwaved leftover pasta. I didn't even sit down to eat it. Just stood in the kitchen, half asleep, shoveling bites in while scrolling on my phone. That's when I heard the noise. It was soft, almost like a thump, followed by something dragging. At first, I thought it was just the fridge compressor kicking in. It makes weird sounds sometimes. But then it happened again. Thump drag. It was coming from the back hallway, the one that leads to my bedroom. I stood there frozen, trying to convince myself it was nothing. Maybe something fell. Maybe the cat got in somehow. But I don't have a cat. I grabbed the heaviest thing nearby, a cast iron skillet, and crept toward the hall. The lights were off. My stupid hands were shaking so hard the pan kept knocking against my leg. I got to the bedroom door. It was open just a crack. I never leave it open. I pushed it slowly. My room was pitch black, but I swear to God, I heard breathing. Slow, heavy breathing. Not mine. Lower, deeper, coming from the corner behind my dresser. I didn't say anything. I didn't ask who was there. I just slowly backed out, shut the door, locked it from the outside. Thankfully, it's one of those old brass knobs with a push-button lock, and called the cops from my car. They showed up 10 minutes later. They went in, guns drawn. But no one was there. No signs of forced entry. Nothing stolen. Every window locked. They said maybe I imagined it. That I was tired. Stressed. I tried to believe them. Until 3 nights later, when I woke up at 3:17 a.m. The bedroom door was wide open, and I could hear the breathing again.